On Friday, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments on the final challenge to the federal law requiring the sale or ban of TikTok. Here to tell us more about what went down before the High Court is Ian Rosenberg, a First Amendment lawyer and author. Ian, good to see you.
Good to be here.
I know people at home are watching. We're going to get to the questions we have for you in a moment, but I know kids and some business owners are saying, is this going to happen? Is this going to get banned?
This is going to happen. My prediction from listening to Supreme Court oral arguments is that a majority of the court at least will uphold the law.
Really? Wow, that is surprising. It's got to make a lot of people nervous. I know there's a number of different layers to this, but let's talk about this. The law at issue here. So who exactly, I guess, give me the players in the law that we're actually talking about here.
Right. So on April 24th, 2024, President Biden signed the Protecting Americans Against Foreign Adversaries Controlled Applications Act, which required the sale of TikTok to a non-People's Republic of China company, or it would be banned on January 19th. The petitioners are TikTok Inc., which is an American company, although their parent company, ByteDance, is based in China, correct? And a group of TikTok content creators. They're arguing that the Supreme Court should overturn the law as unconstitutional on First Amendment grounds. They say at its core that the law is about restricting speech and ideas, and that if the First Amendment means anything, it means that you can't restrict speech to protect against dangerous ideas.
Because it's one thing to have all of our information, obviously, at the hands of Chinese adversaries and whatnot. It's another thing for, like, these business owners. I mean, people do a lot of Americans do a lot of business on TikTok. It's not just a social media app where people are looking at pictures.
That's right, and although the Supreme Court is not very tech savvy, they were well aware of that, but they were really seemingly unconcerned about that in connection with the data security interests.
What were some of the interesting points that you saw in listening to and obviously now having followed this what are some of the interesting points of this case?
Well, I thought there were two really revealing moments. One involved a hypothetical about Jeff Bezos. The TikTok lawyer, Jeff Bezos, of course, being the founder of Amazon and the owner of the Washington Post. What if Bezos' children were kidnapped by the PRC and thereby he was forced to put PRC propaganda on the front page of the Washington Post every day? This would be, TikTok argued, an unconstitutional infringement on Bezos' and the Post's rights. Pretty clearly, but the Supreme Court seemed unconvinced by this argument. Still, it seemed to highlight the point that just saying foreign influence on American-owned companies shouldn't be necessarily enough to be able to ban a whole speech platform.
So it sounds as though the Supreme Court is just like, let's just ban this thing and let's just kind of, not worry about the concerns of Americans who have a genuine concern about TikTok, but just let's first and foremost just say, you know what?
Well, they acknowledge that particularly TikTok creators, as well as for Americans who are using the app, have a First Amendment right to receive information, but I believe that they're going to say that this is a corporate ownership restriction rather than a ban on speech.
So what now happens on the 19th when this ban is set to go into effect? People who have the app already, is it just obviously just not going to be working anymore and just they kaput, gone?
Well, a few things could happen. First, the Supreme Court still could issue a timeout. They could issue an administrative stay or a preliminary injunction, which would freeze the act and allow the app to remain usable by Americans. This is something that both TikTok's lawyers and President-elect Trump have advocated. If they don't do that, they will almost certainly issue a decision by the 19th or in advance of the 19th, which is, of course, just one day before the inauguration. And what happens on the 19th? TikTok's lawyers said to the court, we essentially go dark. It's the platform shuts down.
And is there any chance that someone does swipe in and buy it, Lad? We keep hearing of all of these companies that we're going to buy it, but I mean, obviously, ByteDance has to sell it, right?
Well, that's what the TikTok's lawyer said, is that the PRC would be unwilling to sell the app because of their ownership interest in the algorithm itself. But the government was unmoved by that and said, good, perhaps we need to engage in this game of chicken to force the PRC to divest. Then they said, with new ownership and probably a new algorithm and user experience, the app could return.
Very interesting. Okay, the days are winding down.
Yes.
TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. Okay, and thank you very much for being here and unpacking this complicated case for us.